Our story begins in the small, unassuming town of Hexham, Northumberland, England, in 1957. John and Florence Pollock were a devoted, deeply religious couple whose lives revolved around their two beautiful daughters, Joanna, the protective elder sister, and Jacqueline, the lively younger one. But in May of 1957, unimaginable tragedy struck. While walking with a friend on their way to church, Joanna and Jacqueline were struck and killed by a speeding car. The emotional devastation on John and Florence was immediate and profound. John, unable to reconcile the event with his faith, began reading about reincarnation, clinging to the idea that his daughters' souls were not truly lost. Florence, meanwhile, sank into a crushing despair. A year later, in October 1958, a fragile light returned to their lives with the birth of identical twin girls, Jennifer and Gillian. John was immediately convinced these were his daughters, returned. Florence, though hopeful, remained skeptical, dismissing her husband's theories as grief-fueled fantasy. But then, the physical evidence began to mount. The first piece of proof was undeniable and terrifying. John and Florence realized the twins carried distinct markings that mirrored the deceased sisters. Jennifer, the twin born second, had a birthmark on her forehead that was an exact match in size and shape to a prominent mark on Joanna's forehead. And Gillian, the firstborn, had a distinct thin line above her right eye, the exact location where Jacqueline had a noticeable scar from a childhood accident. These were not generic marks. They were specific, unique identifiers. As the twins grew, the physical evidence was eclipsed by the behavioral evidence. As soon as they could speak, the girls began exhibiting knowledge and preferences they couldn't possibly have acquired. When they were 2, the family gave them old toys, including dolls the deceased sisters once owned, which had been put away in storage. Without prompting, Jennifer instantly claimed the doll that had belonged to the older sister, Joanna, and Gillian claimed the doll that belonged to the younger sister, Jacqueline. Even stranger, Gillian chastised Jennifer when she tried to take her doll, calling it Mary, the deceased sister's doll's actual name. But the most chilling proof arrived when they were around 3 years old. The twins would occasionally erupt into pure, unadulterated terror. While playing in the garden, they would suddenly panic at the sight of a parked car, screaming and grabbing on to their parents. Gillian, who mirrored the younger 6-year-old Jacqueline, often panicked the worst. She would scream, "The car is coming for us! Get out of the way!" The girls also began discussing the accident itself. They spoke of the traumatic event with vivid detail. Jennifer, recalling the older Joanna, would warn Gillian to protect her head, stating, "Don't go there, Gillian. That's where I fell and hit my head and the blood came out." Gillian would then talk about her eyes. "They hit me right in the face." Details they could not have known, as the parents never discussed the gruesome specifics of the tragedy. John decided to test them. He took the girls, now 5, to a town they had never been to, near the deceased sister's old school. As they approached, the twins became excited. They pointed out landmarks John hadn't mentioned. They correctly identified the old schoolhouse and, most compellingly, the hidden path that led to the secret playground they used to frequent. When they arrived at their former home, Gillian stopped, pointing at the building. "This is where Mary and I played," she insisted, clearly identifying the younger sister's friend. It was all overwhelming for the Pollocks. The combination of marks, Phobias, conversational details, and locational knowledge appeared to be airtight. This is where the case moves from a family oddity into the realm of serious scientific study. The Pollock twins became one of the most famous cases documented by Dr. E. Ann Stevenson, a Canadian-American psychiatrist who spent 40 years researching cases suggestive of reincarnation at the University of Virginia. Stevenson's research was meticulous. He examined hundreds of cases involving young children who claimed to remember past lives. He sought to verify statements against the facts of the deceased person's life. The Pollock case stood out for its strength, specifically the birthmarks acting as physical correlation to the deceased's injuries, a consistent criterion in his research. Skeptics, of course, offered counter-theories. Cryptomnesia, or forgotten memories being subconsciously recovered, was suggested. Perhaps Florence, in her grief, spoke about the marks or details when the twins were too young to form complete memories, but old enough to store the information deep down. However, the Pollocks maintained they were exceptionally careful to never speak of the accident in the twins' presence. The most intriguing detail of this case, and others like it, is that the memories didn't last. Just as Dr. Stevenson observed in other children, around the age of 7 or 8, the vivid recollections began to fade. The twins went off to school. Their past life fears and memories slowly gave way to new childhood experiences. Jennifer and Gillian grew up to lead normal lives, completely unable to recall the specifics of Joanna and Jacqueline's brief, tragic existence. The echoes had finally ceased. John Pollock, the father, was left with an unshakable conviction that his daughters had returned to him. The case remains a cornerstone in the world of parapsychology, a powerful, emotional testament to a mystery that science cannot fully resolve. Few facts before we end the video. While researching the story, I realized the story is taking place at the same city and neighborhood as the story of the Hexham Heads, where 2 boys dug up the 2 heads carved into the rock, which ended up terrorizing boys and neighbors at night. While the story focuses on the twins, one more less-known fact is that the car which killed the kids claimed a life of a boy called Anthony, which was walking on the way to the church with the twins. The last, less-known fact is that Gillian Pollock ended up to be a marathon runner for the U.S. Olympic teams. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most terrifying and unexplained mysteries.